If y'all are wondering why my eye looks a little weird, I've got this eye thing going on that like makes my eye dry but also watery and also like kind of tired and stuff, so that's why it looks weird. So just so I can get some pity from y'all, I know my eye doesn't look too bad right now, but this is my reenactment of how I've been looking at my laptop for the past week. Hey guys! So, I guess this week's video is about what makes a man. And that's such a broad topic, but for a while I had no idea what I wanted to say in my video, and then last night I wrote this Tumblr post after I had this really great conversation with a friend of mine. So I think I just want to maybe read the post to y'all because it is sort of a culmination of a lot of things I've been thinking about gender and like my own gender and just how we think about gender in general. So I think it actually answers the question that's this week's theme pretty well. And I might kind of stop in the middle of it to say a little bit more because I wanted to make the post on Tumblr pretty short so that people could read it real quick and just reblog it, but I think there's more to say about some of this stuff, so I'll probably go into it in this video. So it starts out with, I'm not someone who wants to be a man. I already am a man, and I always have been. Preconceived notions about my body should not take precedence over who I know I am. I definitely think that's true. We have this idea that like what your body says is what you are, and then what you say, what your brain says, which is also a part of your body, so there's another logical fallacy right there, but that's somehow not as legitimate. And I think that that's completely wrong, and we really need to start thinking about that in a different way. So the next line is, I'm male, and I have a body. Therefore, I have a male body, whether I've had surgery or not. And in my case, I haven't. Even if I hadn't started hormones already, it's still a male body because it's my body, and I'm male. It's not possible for a person who's male to have a female body because a female body is a body owned by someone who's female. So the next line is, I am biological. In other words, I'm a human being, not a robot, so I am biological, and I'm a man. Therefore, I am a biological man. I hear a lot of people talk about trans men and biological men as being opposites, and it's kind of offensive. It's tied in this idea that like in order for something to be true about you, it has to be clearly visible, and it has to fall in line with everything that we as humans know about gender. And I think that's almost kind of arrogant, that we think we know everything about exactly what it means to be a man, and that it's this one thing and nothing else. So I said, I've heard cis people and even other trans people say that those of us who believe these things are denying the truth or lying to ourselves or twisting around words to fit what you want to be true. I've heard that a lot. I've heard that on a ton of different message boards. Thank God I've never heard it in person. I don't spend a lot of time around trans people in person though. To continue the post, I don't see it that way at all. My way of thinking is accurate. I'm simply acknowledging the inadequacy of our current way of thinking when it comes to expressing my truth. And I think that's very true, that I have a truth that's different from the majority of people's truths, and that's how our vocabulary is set up. It's set up to deal with the stuff that people are going to have to deal with. And so if people don't think about that we're going to have to deal with that, then they're not going to set up our vocabulary in a way that acknowledges that. So the last line, which I was pretty proud of, I think it really expresses something that I've been thinking for a while but couldn't really put into words. So the post ends with, I refuse to define myself using a vocabulary created by people who didn't know or care that people like me existed. And I think that that's really what it comes from. It doesn't come from wanting something to be true that isn't true, or trying to twist words around so that I can be more comfortable with myself. It's more acknowledging that the vocabulary we use is catered towards cis people, because the people who created this vocabulary hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago weren't thinking about trans people. They didn't have our needs and our realities in mind. So the language isn't going to reflect our truth. And instead of defining ourselves using those categories that were never really meant to be used for us, I think that we need to empower ourselves, and we need to understand that maybe we're going to have to start thinking about things a little bit differently if we want to really talk about ourselves. So I guess maybe that was a little bit off topic. I don't think it is, because my definition of what makes a man is anyone who identifies as a man. It's not my place to police anybody's gender. It's not my place to tell somebody what their gender is. That's why whenever anybody asks if people think that they're trans because they're having trouble finding out, I'm not going to tell anybody whether I think that they're trans or not. I'll tell them what my experience has been and what about my experience made me think that I was trans. But I know that it's different for everybody. So what makes a man to me is, if you tell me you're one, then as far as I'm concerned, you are one. So I hope that was interesting. I'll link to the post on my Tumblr in the doobly-doo. I'll link to my personal channel and all that. And yeah, I'll see you guys next Wednesday.